Good morning and welcome to the show. If you're raising kids, you know, it can be a challenge, particularly in those adolescent years. I have Denise Clubs here in the studio today. She's a marriage and family therapist, thank you very much, who's going to give us some tips on how to make that transition to adulthood a little easier. Thanks for coming onto the show today.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I wanted to talk about the book by Thomas Phelan. You know, we talked at one point in time about the 1, 2, 3 magic. Well, the next book to that, from 13 to 18, is Surviving Your Adolescence. Mm-hmm. And there's so much good information in this book for parents. It's like the manual that we didn't get.
Surviving your adolescent children, not surviving your own adolescence.
That's
Yes.
That's
Now,
exactly
I've survived
right.
my adolescence.
That's correct.
Not so sure my parents did, but they did all right, I suppose.
Right. And you know, as our children are going through adolescence, it can sometimes trigger our adolescence.
Yes.
Interesting to think about. But there are four
yeah.
things that I want to talk about quickly, 4 things for parents not to do and 4 things for parents to do when you have teenagers between the ages of 13 to 18. Mm-hmm. Because the primary goal for a teenager is to prepare for letting them go.
You don't want failure to launch.
No, you do not want that.
You
do
want
not
these kids to do their thing
That's
and fly
right.
the nest at some
That's
point,
right.
whether it be college, work, job, military.
Exactly, exactly. One of the first 4 things for a parent not to do is those spur-of-the-moment kind of intense discussions. It's important to set aside a time. You know, you got your report card. Let's talk about that tonight at dinner. Okay, let's talk about that after dinner tonight. I wouldn't recommend doing it around the dinner hour.
Yeah, but don't bring it up in casual conversation. Hey, let's say that, you know, instead of setting the time, just like launch into the report card conversation.
Right,
And the
right.
kid's like, oh, you
Right,
know,
exactly.
busted.
If they're stressing about something anyway.
Yeah.
Nagging. I know as a mom, I was a nagger. It's like we get anxiety about wanting to make sure our kids are doing certain things, and what ends up happening is we tell them over and over and over again. So we, as parents, we don't want to do that. We don't want to argue with our teenagers. Do you know it takes 2 to argue?
Yeah. Sure
So as a parent, it's important to recognize not arguing and setting aside a time, again, to have a discussion about some of the things that may be important.
If we kind of back up to the nagging, you know, what's the upshot of that? I know sometimes if people nag, you kind of tune them out.
Exactly.
And it just becomes white noise, and it's
Exactly.
just her again, whatever.
Right, and then and actually, what ends up happening is husbands and wives, moms and dads, end up doing it differently. Mm-hmm. A dad will come in and say, "Hey, I need you to handle this right now," and the mom will go, "Did you do it? Did you do it? I need for you to do this. I need you to do this." And for some reason, they do it for dads.
Yeah. Well,
Because they're turning out the moms.
it's an economy of words. Make your words count.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so those are the things you shouldn't do. We've got to run off to the local weather.
Okay.
So on the other side of that, let's talk about the things that you should do
Okay.
when dealing with your adolescent children.
Excellent.
Or young adults. We'll be right back after your local weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm. westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with family therapist Denise Clubs, and we're talking about the things you should and should not do with your adolescents. Now, we talked about the things you should not do.
Right.
Okay, and could you just quickly list those off again?
Spur-of-the-moment discussions, arguing, nagging, and some insight transplants. You don't want to tell them things along the lines of, well, when I was a little boy, I did this, and I think you need to do this.
Yeah, so insight transplants.
Right.
I like that one.
Right.
So try not to impart that on your kids.
Right.
Now, what should you be doing? What would take the place of those?
One
4
of the things to think about when you have teenagers is, you know, they have their busy lives and they're getting very busy, and you know, starting at the age of 13, they're out with groups, they're kind of hanging out with their friends, peers are most important. The best time to get together and have a discussion with them would be to invite them to dinner or to lunch. Let's go to a local restaurant, go sit somewhere under you know, a picnic lunch, etc., under the oaks. And the first and foremost is the sympathetic listening. Particularly with females, this is real important that you just hear them over and over and over again. And they're going to talk about it over and over and over again, but you're going to want to find something that you hear in that statement, and you're going to want to agree with them.
So listen more.
Exactly.
Talk less.
Yes,
I
yes.
like that.
And that's hard. As
It is
parents,
hard.
literally, you have to sometimes bite your tongue. That would be a good reminder. Okay. Another thing would be shared fun. What types of things do you enjoy doing together? What are some things that as a family you can do together? Think about, come up with make a list.
And as your children get older and as they age, they kind of outgrow some of the activities that you used to love doing together maybe when they were little.
Right.
Like I know with my son, we used to build model rockets and blast them off.
Right.
He's 20 years old now, so it's like
he's not. No, but that's a good. What you're saying is look at what they're wanting to do.
Yeah, when he was 13, 14, it was like the coolest thing in the world to do.
Exactly. Yes.
But as he got a little older, it was not so much.
Good memories. Those are very good memories. Talk about yourself in terms of maybe some generalizations, in terms of maybe not trying to transplant it onto them, but say, I can remember that something similar happened to me, but you don't want to overdo that because they will tune you out. The teenagers will tune you out. The last thing is positive reinforcement. It's important as a parent to find the positives in what they are doing, however minute it may be. When you see little successes, you want to let them know. You want to say, wow, that's great. You did a good job there. And really give a lot of encouragement, So
reinforce the good stuff.
Yes.
And I think we've done a fair degree of that, with our children. And that I think just having a positive mental attitude about things in general.
Exactly.
You get what you expect.
Right.
If you expect good behavior, a lot of times you'll get it.
And that kind of goes along with the modeling. As parents, if we're modeling that positive behavior, they're going to be more apt to come back and do certain things. An example being when I make a mistake, I'll go to my kids and I'll go, of course they're young adults now, but I would even in younger, Mom made a mistake. I'm sorry about that. I rethought that and I need for you to forgive me and apologize.
You can always, you reserve the right to change your mind.
That's right.
Denise Clubs, we're so out of time. It's not funny, but thanks so much for coming on the show and getting us smart on how to deal with those adolescents.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hi, I'm David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Your life literally rides on your tires, and tires are not cheap. To maximize your auto investment dollars, you need to be rotating the tires. After thousands of miles of driving, you have uneven tire wear. Rotating the tires equalizes the natural tread wear patterns by changing the position of the tires. By rotating the tires regularly, you'll ensure a smoother, safer ride. Look at the sidewall of your tire. If there's arrows pointing in one direction, you have directional tires. You cannot take directional tires moving from the left to the right or the right to the left. They are designed to go in one way. You can rotate them from the front to the back and the back to the front. That's all. Non-directional tires are easier. They can be rotated from the left to the right to the front, from the front to the back, from the back to the front. Rotate them in a crisscross pattern to ensure even tire wear. And don't forget the spare tire. If you have a full-size spare, the full-size spare needs to be included in the rotation. How often should you rotate your tires? Well, to be for certain, check your owner's manual. Your owner's manual will also tell if that the vehicle originally came with directional or non-directional tires. Most manufacturers recommend rotating the tires every 5,000 miles. A good rule of thumb is every other oil change. I am David Lovett, and that has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247, and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Heather Noyes from Raymond James Financial, and we're going to get smart about Social Security. When should we take it? Is it going to be there when I retire? People have a million questions about Social Security. Kind of scary stuff.
Well, I wish I could answer, is it going to be there for sure when you retire? But we always use that in our assumptions for retirement planning purposes. Oftentimes...
that is the social compact, though, that we've made. You've paid into it over the years, and you're hoping to get something back, but it's really not any kind of savings. It's kind of more of a Ponzi scheme that the government has. That's me.
And generally, it does make up a very large portion of individuals' retirement income when they retire. I think a big misconception is I hear a lot is we should take it at 62 as soon as it's available for maybe that reason, like it's going to run out or it's not going to be there. And
Or you really need it.
Right. Well, that may be a good reason to actually take it early. But at 62, you take a significant cut in the income that you're going to receive, and it's a permanent reduction. So if you take it at 62, you're going to get about 30% less for the rest of your life. Wow. Taking it at 62, which can amount to a large amount of money by the end of your lifetime.
Yeah, and people are living longer now and way past 62. I know we talked during the break, my dad retired at 63 from the city of New York, and Social Security and all the other things his union provided to him. He was in that generation when he had these type of benefits. He's 88 now. So he probably could have hung on until he was 66 or 67.
Sure.
Quite easily.
And, the crossover point is about 79 to 81, and what I mean by crossover point is I'm looking at the dollars that you would collect from the government. So if you took it at 62 versus taking the higher amount at your full retirement age, which may be 66, 66 and a half, or 67 in some cases, but that crossover point where if you live past 79 or 80, you would get more money from the government if you waited till your full retirement age.
And full retirement age is 66 and 6 months?
It depends on what year you were born. So some individuals those are probably hitting it now 65.
They've upped that age.
They upped that age. Some are 66, some are 66 and a half, some are 67. 67 is the highest.
Just for that very reason, because people are living longer. Because when they started Social Security, I think people dropped dead in their 60s.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now people are just living longer and longer and longer. What is the average age now? I mean, how long can your average American expect to live?
Depends
70,
on if you're married or not.
Oh yeah, lifestyle, all that stuff. Talk show hosts, they drop dead right away. I plan on sticking around a long time. So Social Security is just one part of your retirement. That should not be the whole enchilada, though.
Right.
I mean, you should be doing other things, and if you can hold off until full retirement age, whatever generation you're in and whatever the age that is, that's probably the wise thing to do, right?
And there's also some strategies that people aren't familiar with that apply to married couples. Maybe you had a spouse that didn't work or didn't spend a lot of time in the workforce because maybe they were raising children, and so they don't have as much that they're going to receive from Social Security. They are eligible to use half of their spouse's Social Security. Now, it doesn't cut into the spouse's Social Security, but let's say a wife could take half of their husband's, and their husbands still get their full amount, assuming half is greater than what theirs is. Does that make sense?
It does, because if and this is very common for women, you get to a certain age, you start having children, you become a stay-at-home mom, and maybe you spend 20 years at home, raising kids or longer, who knows. And then when you get to retirement age, you just haven't worked long enough to draw it on your own, so you would get half of what your husband's would be.
Right.
But it doesn't cut into your husband's action at all.
Correct.
That's great. How do you do that? Is that an age, a function of age as well?
Well, the Social Security Administration says when you apply for it that they automatically calculate which is greater. I'm not sure that they actually do that.
When you say which is greater,
your
own?
Right, or half of your spouse's.
Or half of your spouse's,
right.
I see. So
the same also applies for if you were married to someone for 10 years. And you're not married now, you could still qualify for half of that person's, your ex's Social Security.
Now you get into some complicated territory, because there could be like a second wife situation there too. And
again, it still doesn't take away from
the primary.
Right, the primary person.
Wow. No wonder the government's going broke. Well, this is...
And if you were married multiple times for 10 years, you can pick which one has the highest amount.
And actually, Social Security would be the least of your worries at that point.
Right. Absolutely.
Heather Noyes from Raymond James Financial. Thank you so much
for
that tip of the week. Social Security. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Barbara Holcomb from Panhandle Research and Recovery. It's a local metal detector and artifact recovery club that is like 10 kinds of interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's really fun. Bay County has a real large history dating back to the 1600s when the Indians first came in down in St. Andrews. And there's just so much out there.
Now, you have a business, aside from the club.
Yes.
Where you guys go out with metal detectors. You have Bay County Metal Detectors? Is that the name of the
It's
business?
Panhandle Metal Detectors,
Panhandle
doing
Metal
business
Detectors.
as White's Metal Detectors. I sell machines, I rent machines, accessories, books, search and recovery.
How did you get into all this? I mean, do you just have a real interest in history? Or,
No, because, had I known all this when I was in school, I probably would have passed history.
But you're learning now.
I'm learning now, and
With
it's very
hands-on
interesting.
experience.
When I first moved here, I had 2 small children, and I wanted something to do, and I asked my parents, buy me a metal detector for Christmas. And that was in 1991. I've been doing it since. And it's just a lot of fun.
And what kid has not wanted a metal detector at some point?
I'm a pirate at heart,
Yeah.
It's like people come up to me on the beach, these little kids, and I love entertaining them because if I get a signal, I'm like, you dig up that target and you can keep it,
Well, and sometimes you come up with good stuff,
with something
right?
nice, yeah, and then they're all happy and this and that, and then they come in the next few days and they buy a metal detector with their parents.
What's the oldest thing that you've ever found that you pulled out of the ground with a
The
metal
oldest thing is a 1864 3-cent piece.
Wow.
I did some research of a place called Noma, Florida. It's up 79 before you get to the state line. And I found the old railroad, L&N Railroad, that went through it. And a friend of mine had owned some property up there.
Which is probably all abandoned and overgrown by now.
Right. So I went on up there, and I was getting a hit under the homemade bricks. And I just lifted up the brick, and there was the coin, and it was just like it had been minted.
So you just don't go out randomly with your metal detector. You do a little research.
You have
first.
to. You have to do the research. I mean, we have the Freemasons that were up on Highway 77 years ago in a place called Vicksburg. You have Compton, which is over by Tyndall. Over by Arizona Chemical was an old ghost town by the Martin House. So you have to do your research.
So you find these old places where maybe no one is anymore, but were back in the day. You can find artifacts.
Right, right.
We have to run off to a break now, but maybe on the other side of these messages, you can show us some of this stuff that you pulled up out of the ground.
Sounds good.
This is fascinating stuff. I feel like a kid. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Barbara Holcomb from Panhandle Research and Recovery, and these are some of the items that you've actually pulled out of the ground, which I find just fascinating. Now, it looks like there's some valuable stuff here.
Yeah, there is. I tell people we have perfect conditions here for the treasure hunter.
Now, look at this bracelet here. That looks like there's little diamonds in it.
Yes.
And you found that locally, right?
On the beach.
On the beach.
All of these are beach finds.
Oops, there goes one now.
Yep.
Here's a diamond tennis bracelet. So that's all beach finds.
Right.
Now, I'm also seeing some interesting things like these old Mercury head dimes, which they stopped making many years ago. One's 1942, and the other one's like 1920, I can't remember.
29.
1929.
They were at an old park here, and they came out pretty black because the salt water had been hitting them. But, when you think something is hunted out, nothing is ever hunted out. So
more people lose more stuff than you would think.
Oh, yeah. There's just, it's incredible. I tell people we have perfect conditions for the treasure hunter. We have sand, water, and alcohol.
That's true.
And those are perfect conditions.
And people lose valuable stuff. Now, if you look at these coins, they look black, but these are quarters here, and you have a way of shining those up.
Right. We do electrolysis on them, or we put them in a rock tumbler.
Yeah, and you've got this interesting medallion here from the CYO, or the Catholic Youth Organization.
That's from New York.
Yeah. And this looks like it's solid silver.
It is. It is a Ganesh Temple token. It was found out at Carl Gray Park, out in the water. The Indian people here go to the temple and purchase these as their offering to the temple, and then they take them and throw them in the water as an offering to their god.
Wow.
So when I pulled it up, it blew my earphones out, and it was completely black, and I did some electrolysis. I do my own electrolysis on it. and clean it up, and that's what it came out like.
So, you know, with the type of metal detectors that you have with your business that people can rent, oh, by
Right.
the way, you can discriminate between trash and treasure before
Right.
you even start digging.
Right.
So you'll get a certain signal or whatever in your headset.
And it's different tones, and then you have your land machines, and then you have your water machines that go underwater. And one goes to 100 feet, one goes to 25 feet.
So if you're a diver, you can take a metal detector
Oh, yeah.
down and, oh my, and maybe dive a wreck or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And you've got some of these beautiful bracelets here. There's just so much here, and there's so much history here. Now, is there a number or they can call
They
or a
can
website?
they can get directly to me at 850-588-9500.
Now, what if we want to rent from your business and just
Same
try out?
number.
Uh-huh.
Same number.
And that number again is?
Is 588-9500. I'm across from Rick Seltzer Park on Thomas Drive.
Barbara Holcomb, thank you so much for coming on the
Oh,
show.
thank you for having me.
Time's the enemy here.
This
but
is so much fun.
Yeah, it is.
I'm telling you, do it. You'll enjoy it. It pays for itself in no time.
Well, thanks for coming on the show. And you're
That'll
welcome
pay
back.
for your new detector right
Just
there.
have to take this with me. We'll see you next time.